When you're young, they don't know black and white. You're just David Goggins. When you get in high school, they start realizing you look a little different. You get 3 chances to take this. How I learned was I had to get spiral notebooks. And literally, if I had a manual, I had to write down every single word of the manual. So what may take you an hour to learn would take me 6 or 7 days to learn, and just literally write it down. So I didn't really retain it, I just memorized it. So I can go in my mind right now. I remember page 71, look at the question and go, okay, that's what I saw, that's how I remember it, and put it down. I take the same mentality that I had to become this intelligent guy you all see today. I don't go to sleep for 6 weeks because I'm scared to death of the water. This program is 10 weeks long. After 6 weeks, they thought, well, the guys in the program are gonna go on through further training because you guys are gonna make it, they're good to go. Roger that. So when you go from very uncomfortable to comfortable like I was now, I wasn't in training, I wasn't drowning, you never wanna go back to being uncomfortable again. When you're insecure like I was and you're afraid of everything like I used to be, you lie really fast because you don't want the person knowing that you're a punk. So I sat there and I said, you know what? The doc didn't know a whole bunch about sickle cell, so I'm not comfortable going back into training. The CEO bid off on it, and I never quit. I'm making about $1,000 a month, spraying for cockroaches, and I'm working from 11 o'clock at night to 7 o'clock in the morning. Did this for about 6 months. And my nightly, so at 7 o'clock in the morning, I would go to Steak and Shake, my last stop, spray them down, get a large chocolate milkshake, go across the street to 7-Eleven, get a box of mini donuts, chocolate donuts, because I had a 45-minute commute home. I was depressed and food felt good. So I'm driving home, sipping my shake, eating my donuts, chilling out, listening to the radio. I get home this day, and my routine was to get home, walk in the door, turn the TV on, walk in the back, start taking a shower. This particular day, the TV came on, and they said, world's toughest training, Navy, whatever. Get my towel, which could barely fit me. My ass was so big, I had to pinch it like this. So I come back down, I sit down, and all this shit just falls out. So I'm watching TV, and I'm like, my God, man, those guys are f***ing nuts. Carrying boats and laws, guys going through SEAL training, and wet and sandy, getting cold, jackhammering, snot bubbles, chafed up, guys ringing the bell, just quitting left and right. At the end of the show, this commanding officer comes up at graduation. There's 22 guys that made it through, and the commanding officer says, we live in a world where mediocrity is often rewarded. These men detest mediocrity. Being bullied, coming from nothing, learning disability, messed up foundation. Life isn't fair at all. At all. So what are you gonna do about it? I knew that no one was coming back to help me. No one was gonna miracle me to be somebody special. Everybody that called me nigga, my dad, my mom, all my situations were on me now, and solely on me. So I had to start developing an indestructible mental toolbox. So I sat there on that couch and I realized, man, I am a piece of shit. And even though the world helped me get here, my false reality helped me even more. And listening to somebody else's dialogue further helped me get here. Your best work has to come when you're least motivated. Where does that come from? It comes from basically, I had to stop thinking normal. I had to stop thinking normal. I can no longer be a common man walking around doing common things. But no one taught me this stuff. It wasn't like I had, I paid a trainer to come train me. Jenny Craig didn't come down and miracle my ass. None of this happened. It was on me. And that's the thing you have to realize. Everything you do, you may have some support, you may not, but it's on you. You have to make the decision whether you want to be a badass or whether you just want to be mediocre and everything's okay. But being a badass hurts real bad. And that's why I didn't want to do it. For the first 45 minutes, the pain was so excruciating, but then after that, it would subside. I've been through Ranger School, Delta Force selection twice, 3 hell weeks, all this crap. This is the worst pain I've ever been in. To this day, I'm 43 years old right now. I did 21 years in the military. I've done 60 ultra races, pull-up records, all kind of stuff. This is the worst pain of my entire life to this day. But this is what I had to realize, one thing. I had to break this humongous thing down to very small. All I put in my mind was, let's not quit yet. I'm gonna quit, but not yet. If you can't answer the questions your brain is asking you, you quit. If you have the answers to those questions of why the hell am I out here, and you give it a quick answer, the brain starts shutting up because it knows why we're doing what we're doing. I started figuring these things out in my life. So we have this governor on our brain, and how you start pushing past that governor, start realizing your brain has the tactical advantage over you. Why? Because it knows your insecurities. It knows when you're lying. It knows your fears. It knows everything about you. And whenever those things start, like right now, I'm scared to death up here. Why? When I was in 6th grade, I was in a play. And I stood up in front of a whole bunch of white people that probably didn't, I was being judged in my mind. Scared the shit out of me. And I stuttered severely bad. And I knew I stuttered bad. My line was this long. It's like, hello or some shit. And I stood up for everybody, and I was like this. And I walked off stage. So when I walk up in front of 1,200 people, it's still there. My mind's telling me, go, run off the stage. I have to tell my mind something different. I have to remember my resume, what I've been through, that all of you in here are just as fucked up as me. We post our real life, never on Instagram. We post the life that we want to have out there. That's not me anymore. I'm gonna tell you exactly about me, who I am. That's how you get better. That's how you fix yourself. That's how you grow. And he said, you know how he did it? Life isn't fair. We have to understand that. It shouldn't be fair. It's a trial ground. It's a testing ground. It's built to make us harder. It's built to make us as strong as we can, to test us, to drive us. So, mentality is the only thing that gets us through life. I was an underdog. We are all underdogs in life. Even the baddest person in the world should think that way. So you should always have I've never arrived mentality. And the can't hurt me mentality is no matter where you come from, the sewer or wherever you think you're from. When I got out of the sewer, I got to the road and looked around and said, can't hurt me. Nothing should be able to hurt you. If you believe that, it starts to become true. And I lied so much because I wanted everybody to like me. I wanted to be accepted so badly. So whatever you liked, I liked. I mean, I liked it, but just so you like me, that's what I thought about. So for a period of time, looking in that mirror every day, you can't lie to yourself, man. That dirty bathroom mirror that with all that daggone toothpaste scum and whatever on it, it's telling you the truth. It's saying, hey man, you are a jacked up cat. And a lot of us have this voice in our head. We all know that voice in our head that tells us the truth every single day that we try to run away from, that says we're scared of this, let's go this way. It started gnawing at me so horribly bad that it wouldn't allow me to live anymore without facing me. I had to go back in the dungeon. Every single day, I'm going back in the lab again, man. I'm going back in the lab every single day. It's not gonna end. That's when you know you're being a leader, when your life truly is it sucks. Right now, a lot of you right now can be motivated as hell, go out of here and be like, yeah, I'm motivated. But you said you're right. Without being driven or obsessed, this motivation fades. And motivation is at the all-time high when your bills are paid, when your wife or husband is good, when everything is good, you're motivated. It's that person when all hell breaks loose and everything falls apart that says, I still gotta get it in. And how you get to that point in life, what I figured out, it's so noisy right now. This world is so noisy. We all walk around with these phones, computers. The world is so fast. We're not able to think. The most powerful weapon in the world, we walk around with it. It's our mind, it's our brain. You have to be able to go into a very dark place in your mind and figure who you are. Go back to what you want to do. What's your purpose? We can't figure our purpose out or why we're here or why we're even born or whatever because it's so loud in our mind. We don't have any quiet time with ourselves to sit back and say, what do I really want? There's so many different dialogues in our head that we can't think. So my biggest thing is you have to be alone in a very dark place in your mind to think about what is important to you. How much do you weigh? 300 pounds. What did you do? I was a pest control guy for 40 years. He says, this is what you were supposed to be. A 185-pound person. Be able to run 205 miles, break the pull-up record, motivate people, energize people, make them driven, make them passionate, make them find more. So am I in heaven or in hell? That's what motivates me. Do the impossible. You have to go back in there, in that muck, face that muck, fix that. Because what happens is, when I was in Navy SEAL training, one of my jobs was to train guys to get through Navy SEAL training. And what I started realizing is I was training these guys, they were getting bigger, stronger, faster, all this other stuff. But they would still quit. All I was doing was building bigger, stronger, faster quitters. And I started down, I was like, what the hell am I doing wrong, man? I was changing all the external crap. I wasn't going into the internal and changing what really matters. So that's what the first step is, and I talk about it a lot in my book about how, like, the steps about doing that, man. But the first step you have to do is face yourself and be accountable for what you're not. So then you can be what you want to be. Authenticity. It's being able to know that your life is jacked up, that we all come from a past that maybe bad or good, and to own it, and not to be ashamed of it, to not be afraid for people to judge you, not care what other people think, to be able to walk around in your own skin and be so comfortable in it that you can write your whole life. I don't respect a whole bunch of people, but the few that I did respect are the people who were uncommon amongst uncommon people. And what that means is those people who weren't afraid to stand alone. Those people who have morals, values, who did not go with. If all you guys are going left, it's that one person who say, you know what, left's not the right way. I'm gonna go right. Who didn't follow the crowd. That person who's not afraid of doing what they believe is right in their heart and not following someone else because someone else said, let's go this way, and they agree with everybody. I don't like yes men or yes women. If you're right, you're right. We're gonna follow you. But I like people who stand for something, they believe in something, and this is the way I'm gonna go whether you like me or not. Don't be them, be you. It's hard to imagine, but you have to learn how to fail. Because I'm gonna explain this to you. I had big dreams. A lot of us have big dreams, big goals. And when you have goals that are maybe outside your reach, you have to know that getting to that goal, you're gonna have a lot of bad days, a lot of setbacks. So I had to teach myself how to fail right. And what that means is when I fail, I can't spend much time in that fail zone. I have to be able to get up and get after the next day just as fast, because my goals were to be a Navy SEAL. I don't have time to stay here and feel bad for myself for weeks and months and years, because I'll lose that time. If you have big goals and big dreams, along the way, failure is going to happen. So how fast do you get up from that? And you got to teach yourself that. But the biggest key to success in anything you do is you got to have an unlimited supply of fuck you. This drive and passion, and it may come from nothing. Like for me, there was no passion, no drive, no nothing. But I had this fire that I'm going to be somebody. And it has to be there, because on all those bad days and all those days you don't want to do shit, you have to be your own motivator, your own coach, your own trainer, your own everything. So to do that, you have to come into work, and work is whatever your work may be, ready to go. And what that means is you may have failed miserably yesterday, but you come to work like, people are like, man, you just lost everything. How the hell are you just fucking damn motivated? Because this is what it takes. This is what the fuck it takes. Because in those dark moments, you gotta pull it out. So that's the big thing for me, man. I was always fired up at all times. 30 days ain't gonna do shit for you. The permanent, you wanna make it permanent. Permanent, you start talking about a year, 18 months, 2 years, that's a sacrifice. And when you commit yourself to something for a year, you're not gonna say, oh, I'm gonna let that go. Because in your mind, you have it clear as day. That year took a lot out of me. That year built me. That year started to scrape away all that scar tissue, started to clean me up. 30 days doesn't clean shit up. 30 days just kind of covers up, put a blanket over it. It's like putting a rug over it. A year, it cleans you up nicely, man. Whatever your problem is, if you can dedicate yourself for a year to something, You could be a changed person. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to sacrifice? What are you willing to forgo? Because a lot of people, like this guy came in one time, I was a trainer, and he goes, man, I can stop doing anything but my frappuccinos. I go, fucking leave. Because I'm looking for that person like me. People, it's hard for people to understand how I lost 106 pounds in less than 3 months. I sat down at the table and I said to myself, what are you willing to give up? Everything. And when people come to me with that kind of mindset, I can work with you. When you are willing to strip yourself down to nothing and give everything, that's who I want to work with. Because now I can mold you into exactly who you want to be. When you put these restrictions up, and that's why my first question is, how bad do you want this? If it's as bad as you want to live or breathe or sleep, whatever the hell it may be, I can work with you. But a lot of people, most people don't want it that badly, which is why they always ask the question, man, how did you get to where you are? You know how to do it. You know exactly how to be you or how to be me. You don't want to do it. So I can't make you do it, and nor do I have the time or energy to force you into that place that I know you have to be to do it. There's no luck in this game, man. It may be a little bit of luck, but the luck happens after you bust your ass and you put yourself in that lucky situation. Luck doesn't happen. You put yourself in that situation where luck might fucking happen. And that's what people don't know. But to get there, luck ain't gonna happen. You have to put yourself in that situation, man. It takes a lot of work. Normal people with normal minds can't understand that. So then you become a liar or this and that. But now I got to the point in my life where I'm like, you can go f*** yourself, dude. If you don't believe it, go ahead. But I don't talk about a lot because I know what I've done, and I know what the mind can do and where it can take you. I've experienced it over and over, and my mom has seen it over and over and over again, to the point where it's almost like I can't even believe sometimes, but I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to push myself to that limit and see what happens. That's the only reason they have already put their cap on their success in life. And that's why most people aren't sitting where you're sitting or sitting where I'm sitting. You never capped yourself. You might have, and if you did, you took it off.
100%.
People cap themselves. They look at somebody, and because their mind can't imagine it, they then start talking shit. He has to be doing this, or he has to be doing that. There has to be some trick. There has to be some potion. This is bullshit. No, it's because you cannot allow your mind to open up for the possibility of it can be done. I taught myself how to fail. I'm always skirting on that like limit of like, okay, I'm there. Okay, I failed, but I was right there. What did I miss? What the f did I miss? Oh, that's what I fucking missed. And then it happens. These haters, they know who you are, but you don't know them. There's a reason behind that. You've done something amazing. Mm-hmm. They've done nothing.
Correct.
Period. Which is probably why they fucking hate your ass.
Why they talk shit.
That's right. Where you going? What do you want to do with your life, bro?
For those people that are out there in whatever window they're in right now, I think they're so crippled by what they confront.
It took a lot for me to be a man. Mm-hmm. It ain't fucking easy.
No.
It's the hardest thing a person can ever fucking do in the world is be a man. Real dude.
Yep.
From working out to eating to family to fucking doing all the shit. You ain't happy a lot.
Correct.
A lot. So
True.
So all this shit that people want to talk about, oh man, I ain't happy a lot.
Mm-hmm.
All right? I ain't supposed to be. So when you live that way, and people know you ain't fucking lying, and they saw the work you put in, it makes a motherfucker feel alpha. Makes the alpha feel a little bit weird around you. So after a while, when you exceed the standards of the military, exceed the standards of Navy SEALs, and you're constantly going to this direction, you're some fat, dumb black dude couldn't swim. Now you exceeding the standard, starts to rub some people the wrong way. And I would tell people about it. Not like talking to them, but we gotta be better. Like I talked to that ranger back there.
Yep, sure did.
It's who the we are, man. That's what we gotta do. I don't know what you went through. I don't know what you're going through. I didn't wear the shoes you wore when you were a kid. I didn't grow up in your up house. I didn't have your up family. I don't know about you. So guess what I do? Shut the up. Because real men don't say shit. Because first of all, we're too busy trying to grind and be better.
Correct.
Second of all, unless we know what we know, we shut our fucking mouths.
Mm-hmm.
All I want to do is retire my mother when I get older. That's all I want to fucking do. I believe in self-discipline, self-pride, self-motivation. No one has that self anymore. That self is gone. So that driving force that tells you, I have to do this shit, I took great pride in the fact that I was nobody. And what you just described put goosebumps on me because that's exactly what I took pride in. You put the time in, you put the effort in, you put the work in. And as a man, we don't want none of that. We just want fucking respect.
Amen.
And that's what men don't give a fuck about now. But the only thing I want is for my family to look at me and say, that's the man.
Mm-hmm.
Right there.
Let it hurt.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with it hurting.
No.
Let it hurt.
It's necessary.
It's very necessary.
And I wanted to be a bodybuilder, and then I realized I'm 6'4". It's not going to work for bodybuilding to win Mr. Olympia because everybody is 5'8", 5'9", 5'10", maybe 5'11", Ronnie Coleman. But the 6'4" days are behind us. Even Lou Ferrigno didn't win at that height. Arnold did. And then when I got into sales and everybody was a fan, then I started competing, still a little bit of fan. But when I started the insurance company and then I started growing market share, really, then a lot of those people that were fans then started undermining. And I said, got it. This is how it works. You can't be this naive. You can't be this innocent. Competition's out there. If you want to kind of go out there and take market share from others and you want to get bigger, you can't expect for people to sit there and like everything you're doing. That's when I realized you got to choose your enemies wisely.
That the biggest obstacle we have to overcome is out there, and many times the call is coming from inside of our own house. I think that the worst enemy that many people have is the voice that's inside of their own head.
Losing years of maybe you love the wrong person, maybe they don't love you in return as much as you love them, maybe you're going to give more than they're going to give you, maybe a betrayal, maybe it's an act, maybe it's just good for the season, maybe they're going to change their minds if they really find out what you're all. There's a lot of risk to love. But why do we love? You know, it's a very unique relationship. That risk is exhilarating. It's exciting. You know, maintaining it, it's a lot of work. It's not easy. It's why nowadays most people don't want to get married. Nowadays there's a movement of, I don't want to get involved, to getting married. I don't want to have kids. It's too risky. I want to live for myself. I don't want to have the responsibilities. I don't want to be heartbroken. Okay, great. And then you realize the risk of loving is worth it. I can't imagine living life without having that love.
When you're on the way up, everyone roots for you because you remind them of their dreams. And when you're at the top, everyone tries to tear you down because you remind them of what they gave up on.
You're maniacal, you're detail-oriented, you're moving up right now on the podcast, across the board, competing with everybody. You have a vision, maybe some of it we know, probably all of it we don't know, okay? Some of it's kept you, even the smiles telling the story right now. You're a perfect example of this. It is a battle your entire life, try to win this person over. You're never going to do it. It's not going to happen, but you need that person as well. Most people chose the wrong enemies. The enemies they've chosen is about being entitled, is about being victims, about feeling sorry for themselves, and it's destroyed them. It's stolen years away from their lives.
I'm scared that I'm not enough. I believe that I can do more.
Yep.
I have the impulse control to be able to keep me focused and keep me moving forward.
Everything you're doing, for the most part, 95% of it can be replicated by somebody else. But the 5% is your wit, is your interest, is the curiosity. Either the person has it or they don't have it, right? Okay. So yes, I can pick up those skills, but do I have your willpower? That's emotional. Yes, I can go study the competition. Let me see the top podcasters out there, what they're doing. What is the category for politics, for business, for sports, for comedy? Yes, but enemy's bigger. Study competition all you want, but enemy's a complete different criteria that you're talking about. You can have all the money in the world. Fantastic. That's finances, that's money. You can go raise money. There's plenty of companies that raise money. The moral of the story is, one is logic, the other one is emotion. Emotion brings out a different side. If it can be controlled madness, controlled emotion, it's going to go into a different gear that a normal person's not going to have. It's very easy to criticize a guy like you who wants to compete. And maybe internally you don't want to compete. You want to dominate. Maybe internally you want to show everybody, no, I'm going to be number one. Let's just say within, because professionally you want to do this. Totally cool. But there's a lot of other competitors out there that have good podcasts and they're doing a good job. It's just a different mindset when you have that enemy. Only one person has to come look at me face to face and say, you can do a job I can't do. Come back and help us. Think about the individual has to evolve. Like you have to also recreate yourself as you're going through this. The same enemy that drives you when you're 22 years old should not be driving you at 32 years old, or else you haven't matured. You should also out-mature that enemy. And then 32, something else should be driving you, then 42, then 58, then 63, then 75. But you are going to have those love affair with those enemies. That's a love affair. You had an affair with this enemy over an 8-year span, over a 13-year span, over a 6-year span, over a 6-month span. But, you know, there is truth in the idea of you still being driven by that enemy 18 years after you beat that enemy, 13 years after you beat that enemy. You chose men as being the enemy. 40 years later, 50 years later, you're 65 years old, single, not married, no kids. You're living in an apartment or a condo with a dog or a cat, that's all you ever talk about, and you're lonely and you're sitting there saying, I was wrong. Men are not the enemy. But guess what? That movement stole 50 years of your life. You know how painful that is? Your best allies are parents. You're losing parents who have been watching this for years. You're losing the people that this is a legacy product. Whatever's too easy to come, you devalue it. You don't value it that highly. You watch people, you watch values, principles, you watch how they treat people, you watch how people treat them, you watch how people respond to them, you watch how they are with powerful people, you watch how they are with regular, average, day-to-day people. You look for that. Today, it's not the cars, the Lambos, the Ferraris, the houses, all that stuff. By the way, I'm a capitalist, and I love all that stuff, but I like that stuff because different reasons. I enjoy the game. I'm a kid. I'm turning 45 tomorrow. I'm 44 today for the last day. Tomorrow I'll be 45. But there's an element of childlike stuff that brings out the 14-year-old kid. When I look at a baseball card, I'm a kid. When I look at a baseball card, the average person's like, who cares about baseball cards? That's a different element. But the relationships, the way they treat people, values and principles, what they value, you look for those types of things. And eventually enough will be revealed the more you pay attention. Just because something is hard to obtain doesn't mean it's valuable.
Correct.
I realize not everybody is driven by the same thing. All I care about, that's something that drives you. There is no book you can read to be that guy. You can read 48 Laws of Power 100 times. You can't be that guy. You either are that guy or you're not that guy. When you're winning, everybody's telling you how amazing you are. Oh my God, let me tell you, dude, you know what? You're the best. You're amazing. You know, you're just better than that guy, and you're better than this guy. And it always takes me back to that quote of Marcus Aurelius, who had a slave that would sit behind him and always whisper to him, hey,
you're just a man.
You're just a man.
You're just a man.
That's right, 40 Laws of Power, right? You're just a man. You're just a man. You're just a man. And then he would get up, and he became the best emperor, 62 AD to 69, whatever the time is. And he becomes who he becomes. And we read about him now. And then when you're losing, everybody tells you, I told you shouldn't have done that. I knew you weren't going to make it. Yeah, I told you it wasn't for you. You weren't that guy. And you believe that as well. When you're winning, don't believe the hype. When you're losing, don't believe the hype. Whatever story even your own side is saying, why don't you be skeptical a little bit and question it for yourself and see if you can entertain both ideas. You have to take the risk whether you want to go to 2. The audience is leaning on you to see how you would assess this issue, and they trust the way you reason. People are looking to see how a reasonable person like you that can give a logical perspective, because that's what's missing today. This is very hard, and the market has proven that this isn't for everybody. The market has proven you cannot keep my attention for that long. This is very, very difficult.
You have worked so hard to be able to give your kids opportunities that you never had. And yet you know that they need to go through the hardships, and that those are where the lessons are learned are going to prepare them.
Who do you want to be? What type of life do you want to live? That's simple. Okay, so what does this mean? Do you want to be a founder? Yeah. You sure? Yeah? Positive? I think so. It's kind of cool, right? Want to be a founder, entrepreneur? You sure you want to be a founder? You sure you want to be the number one guy? Some people don't go make money to get power. Some people, Klaus Schwab, they're like, no, I'm not going to go make money to get power. I'm going to get power by creating laws and thinking I know what's best for you.
Do people love you for who you are or for what you do? This is uncomfortable to consider. People loving us for who we are feels more real, genuine, caring, empathetic, and robust. It feels like we're less fickle and more difficult to lose. On the other hand, people loving us for what we do feels transactional and transient. The love that we receive becomes contingent on what achievements and successes we can offer in return. And the obvious fear is that if a point came where we no longer had anything to offer in return, would our love be taken away? So here's an even more uncomfortable question. Do you love you for who you are or for what you do? This highlights our hypocrisy. You see, we want the world to love us for who we are, a balanced, caring view of our true value, independent of our accomplishments. Meanwhile, our own self-love is largely determined by what we do. If we fall short, even though we know we tried our best, we still castigate ourselves for being insufficient, unworthy creatures. So we want the world to show up for us in a way that we are often not prepared to show up for ourselves. You demand more than this. Demand it of yourself.
Life is so difficult and challenging that unless you give it everything you have, the chances are very high that it will embitter you, and then you'll be a force for darkness and not good. And so, the fact that life is short and can be brutal can terrify you into hiding and avoiding. But it can also, you can flip that on its head and understand that since you're all in anyways, you might as well take the risks that are adventurous. And that's a very good thing to understand. And what is also useful to understand in that manner is that there isn't anything more adventurous than the truth. You can craft your words to get what you want, and people do that all the time. They craft their words so they can avoid taking responsibility for things they should take responsibility for, or they can craft their words to gain an advantage that they really don't deserve. That's what you do when you manipulate. And the problem with that, you might say, well, why not do that if I can get what I want? And the answer to that is, you aren't necessarily the best judge of what you need. And it's easy to be deluded in what you want. And that's the sort of delusions that people chase if they chase power. If you decide instead that you're going to just say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. And you might think, well, I don't want to let go of the consequences because I want to control what's going on. But what you miss then is adventure, because if you don't control what's going on, you don't know what the hell's going to happen. And maybe that's exciting. And actually, there's no doubt about it. And then you have the additional advantage if you're attempting to say what you believe to be true and attempting to act in the manner that you think is most appropriate. That's genuinely you, and you have the force of reality behind you. If you hide and you don't let what's inside of you out, and you don't bring into the world what you could bring, and you become cynical and bitter, you will start doing very dark things. So you'll start, not only will you not add to the world what you could add, but you'll start being jealous of people who are competent and doing well and work to destroy them. People start out naive, and naive people are optimistic, but not really. They're just naive. And naive people have no idea that there's, say, malevolence in the world. They have no idea that there's malevolence in their own heart. They're sheltered and dependent. And when that breaks, it often breaks into cynicism. And so cynicism is actually an improvement.
As the veils have fallen from your eyes.
Exactly. The problem with cynicism is that, especially if it's allied with a kind of arrogance, is that you can end there. And that's a big mistake. So then the question becomes, well, once you've been bitten hard and you're no longer naive, well, that is very hard on your optimism, let's say. So then the question is, how do you restore that without reverting to the naivety, which you can't do anyways without blinding yourself once you've been bitten. And the answer to that is you substitute courage for naivety, and you regain your optimism as a moral imperative. The people who are using fear to garner power point to the various apocalypses that might befall us. And it's difficult to counter them because the future is always an apocalyptic horizon. Like, everything can fall apart and has before and might well again and will, in fact, in your life as you age and die. And so it's very easy to conjure up an apocalypse. Then the question becomes not, is that apocalypse potentially real? Because the answer to that is yes, but what attitude should you have towards that? You can ride the wave no matter how big it becomes. How does your cynicism let you off the hook? Right? How does your cynicism justify your desire to avoid necessary responsibility and to pursue your own short-term hedonic gains? It's like, why aren't you cynical about your own doubt? And that's another place where wisdom begins. We need to separate out the distinction between fantasy and delusion. You do have a fantasy about the future. You have to, because like you said, it's not structured. So you have to provisionally map the future. That's what a plan is.
Positive
That's
goal.
what a strategy is.
Yeah.
Right. But that doesn't make it a delusion. Like, it becomes a delusion when the map bears no relationship to the underlying territory. There's no reason to call that a delusion. It's one hypothetically possible path of potential. And then you can make the sacrifices necessary to bring that about. So even though it's a fantasy because it maps something that isn't there, it's not a delusion. It's a delusion when you're ignoring elements of your own experience that would inform your fantasy more effectively. You're ignoring them so that you can live in a positive representation of the future without having to pay the appropriate price for it.
When the natural road toward human fulfillment is blocked, human beings retreat into themselves, become involved in themselves, and try to create inwardly that world which some evil fate has denied them externally. If you cannot obtain from the world that which you really desire, you must teach yourself not to want it. If you cannot get what you want, you must teach yourself to want what you can get. This is a very frequent form of spiritual retreat in depth into a kind of inner citadel in which you lock yourself up against all of the fearful ills of the world.
What it is that you did wrong or insufficiently that led to the collapse of your plan, right? So that's the first investigation. All right, I need to retool my conception of strategy, but also potentially my conception of goal. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place. Maybe I have to look somewhere else. And you can open yourself up to a revelation. If they ask, they'll receive, and if they seek, they'll find. Even if the world was conspiring against me and my failure was 95% the fault of external occurrences and other people, what did I do that wasn't as good as it could have been, and where did I fail to look so that the probability of my failure was higher? Now, to ask that question, you have to want the answer. That's what it means to knock or to ask or to seek. This is no joke. It's like you have to want to know. And it's a very painful thing to do because, especially if you had given it your all to the degree you were able, and you have reason to be bitter, you're going to be searching for the errors that you still made. And discovering your own errors is always extremely painful, right? Especially if they're errors that you're in love with. And so you have to be willing to strip yourself down. That's what humility means fundamentally. And then, but the advantage is, this is why it's so useful to listen to people. You might find out where you're stupid. And then you could stop being stupid. So you want to avoid the downhill path. Well, if the uphill path is like this, which is like exponential, let's say, or geometric, then what that means is that it doesn't matter how big the first steps you take uphill are, even if they're trivial, even if they're shameful in their size, because you're so useless, that if you're disciplined in that, you'll speed up extraordinarily rapidly. And so that's the good news, you might say, is that you can take very small steps, even ones that might be shameful in their size, and you have to admit that to yourself. But once you get the ball rolling, it doesn't roll in a linear fashion, it rolls in a geometric fashion. It's a pain to start at the bottom, but you start at the bottom where you're weak. And if you want to rectify what's weak, you have to accept the fact that you're at the bottom and that the first steps are going to be painful. If you're going to rectify your weaknesses, you have to admit your insufficiency to your own shame. Now, if the gap between you and your ideal is so great that it paralyzes you, you shrink that. Aiming at something and comparing yourself to it are not exactly the same thing. You look at the person you're jealous of, and really what you're doing is you're looking through a very narrow aperture at a very thin slice of their life. You're looking at the thin slice of their life that's turning out the best, but you're also looking at a thin slice of their life that's marketed to be the best, right? And you have no idea what the horror of that person's life might be in its totality. And you have no idea.
My mind is a storm. I don't think most people would want to be me.
Right.
They may think they would want to be me, but they don't. They don't know. They don't understand.
If you're 1 in 1,000, if you're the most creative person in 1,000, and you're the most conscientious person in 1,000, you're 1 person in 1,000,000. It's hard to imagine that you could be in a situation where things are so positive that you can barely stand it, but I am in that situation, and it's quite something to contend with. Our emotional life is a story. That's a good way of thinking about it. And that we're guided by our emotional instincts, and what our emotional instincts do is put us into certain stories. You won't get what you don't want. See, I didn't want to go work somewhere where they wouldn't want me. I wanted to go work somewhere where they wanted me. So my strategy was, well, this is who I am. And if you don't want me, that's a drag because I'm looking for a job. But by the same token, I'm not going to pretend to be someone other than who I am so I can work here. The thing is, if you tell people who you are, and an opportunity opens up, it opens up for you.
Yes.
Not for this thing you've created, this lie.
I followed my instincts. And instincts, they may sometimes lead you wrong, but they're the only thing that's ever led you right.
Right. Don't occlude your eye. You can see what's in front of you if you're willing to see it. And if you're willing to see it, many of the terrible obstacles in life, you can just walk around. But if you blind yourself purposefully to follow your own narrow, self-serving delusion, you're going to run into terrible things and terrible people and the terrible part of your own soul all the time. That's what you should be afraid of. Yeah.
Feel the gap between where you are and what you have to do in order to achieve the thing that you want. If you believe that you are always going to be right, that there is nothing to learn outside of you, and that any kind of admission that you might be wrong is tantamount to destruction, it does exactly the same thing. You need to, and it goes back to asking stupid questions, being prepared to ask the stupid questions and look not like the most informed person in the room, but also, importantly, nowhere near the most stupid person in the room, because you're the one.
Practice gratitude. That's one of the primary religious rituals, you might say, is the practice of gratitude. You are morally obligated to maintain faith no matter what happens to you. And there's a practical side to that. So imagine that God and Satan conspire against you. There'll be times in your life where it feels like that's happening. And then imagine that your reaction to that is to become bitter and resentful and hostile. Well, then whatever hell you're in, merely as a consequence of the confluence of tragic events, you have opened a whole other hell underneath it. The hell of bitterness and resentment and ingratitude, and that turns into the desire for revenge very, very quickly. If you think things are bad just because they're bad, you wait till you see how bad they can become if you allow yourself to be corrupted by your unjust suffering. You'll be courageous when there's zero risk. Well, obviously that's a contradiction in terms. You're only courageous if there's a risk. And not only that, by the time you've sacrificed your word for illusory security for 15 years, there's nothing left of you that's true. That's gone a long time ago. You probably look back at the former self who was naive and thought that you could say what you think as just, you're cynical about it. That person just didn't know how the world worked. And then it's the same thing that you pointed out. The idea that you become good because you have material plenty, that's a silly idea.
It's like
Why
the
would
same.
that be the case? Your mental health isn't dependent on you. That's not the right way to think about it. I don't think you can be mentally healthy in the absence of a long-term stable relationship. If it's all about what you want right now, or more accurately, all about what something in you wants this moment, that's the definition of immature insanity. You have to commit. So you commit to someone else, you commit to your family, you commit to your community. Like, there are multiple levels of identity that stretch out into the social world. There's no difference between thinking about yourself and being miserable. It's all about what I want. And then that becomes, it's all about what I want right now. Then it's what the lowest part of me wants right now, and to hell with everyone else. You actually get to do the thing that someone else just wants to take credit for. Well, maybe doing the thing is plenty of reward in and of itself with regard to identity. You know, when I was a professor, I was also a husband, and I was also a father. Well, those were identities, but they weren't in my head. They were embedded in the relationship I had with my kids, and that was a meaningful relationship, embedded in the relationship I had with my wife. You can't be, you know, it's almost heretical to say this in the modern world. You can't be isolated, alone, without responsibility, and pursuing your hedonistic nonsense, and not be insane and miserable. Those are all the same thing. If we have a problem, we're going to deal with it right now, and we're going to deal with it right to the bottom. And that's very unpleasant, but if you do it, sometimes you only have to do it once and the problem goes away, and then you don't have that bloody problem every day for the rest of your life. And sometimes it takes, 20 times before it's fixed, before you've got to the bottom of things. And that can be very unpleasant. You can't act without making moral decisions. Like every step forward is predicated on a moral decision to do something that's better than what you're doing now, right? There's no action without movement towards the good, because reality isn't what presents itself moment to moment. The reality is a dim shadow of the essence. The reality is less real than the ideal. Human beings are aware of their extended self. You know you're going to be around tomorrow, and next week, and next month, and next year, and 5 years from now, and 10 years from now. Now it's less certain as you go out, but you do have the sense of yourself as something that stretches across the decades. Okay, and so what that means is that you have to conduct yourself in a manner that isn't merely immediate. You have to conduct yourself in a manner that will work across time. Now, how do people do that? They work. Work is a sacrificial gesture. You make the right sacrifices, and they pay off. That's the bargain. And that if you got the sacrifices right, the future would be paradisal. Do not claim divine motivation for self-serving behavior. This is going to hurt now, but the iterating consequences are positive, that if you give it everything you've got, you will prevail. You're willing to sacrifice your short-term physiological and psychological comfort for a medium to long-term benefit. It's the essence of sacrifice, to offer this is something the atheists don't understand about the biblical narrative, is that the narrative insists that we live in a sacrificial relationship. It's the essence of humanity to live in a sacrificial relationship. It's less about what you, in your narrow sense, want right now, and it's more about what's good over the medium to long run, including other people. You give up everything that's low. Everything.
The heaviest things in life aren't iron and gold, but unmade decisions. The reason you are stressed is that you have decisions to make, and you're not making them.
If you faced everything that was put in front of you, who would you be? You either face it, and you do that predicated on the faith that something in you will respond if you do, or you don't face it. That's it. Those are the options. If you sort out enough of those things, you live in peace. And that's something worth attaining. We want to get to a place where our whole life is like the best moments of the best dates we ever had. Get out of your zone of comfort. Get out into the world. Truth is what's optimally difficult. The truth is optimally difficult. That's a really wonderful thing to know. The truth is adventure. There's no distinction. Partly because if you're going to just say what you believe to be true, you have to let go of the consequences. You can't predict the consequences. Well, there's no difference between not being able to predict the consequences and having an adventure. They're the same thing, right?
Because if you knew the consequences, it wouldn't be an adventure.
It's not an adventure if the consequences are foregone.
The same as it's no sacrifice or courage if there's no risk.
Right. It's exactly the same. As you get more and more disciplined, you start to transform, right? And so your vision starts to change. As you walk through life in your normal mode, things will call to you. And if you pursue them, they will take you deep. It doesn't really matter what it is that calls. What matters is that you pursue it, and you pursue it to the depths.
Doing that and focusing on yourself for a short space of time that's very, very, it's maybe a couple of months, really, really focusing on you. Still going about and doing your work and doing the rest of the things, but outside of that, just really, really trying to make yourself as good as possible. Periodizing that, for me, was one of the most powerful inflections aside from the lifestyle change.
You can't do that. You cannot construct for yourself a false persona designed to extract resources from the world without that becoming part of you. Be careful what you practice. Be careful what you practice, right? You can be the actor of your own ideal, and that's a way of stepping forward. But when you make false claims to who you are, to gain status in consequence, you're perverting your soul.